Good morning, class 6. Today we will start with the third lesson of your main reader book, that is Honeysuckle. We will begin with Taro's Reward. Before we start the story, I would like to remind you of Shravan Kumar. You all must have heard the name, that he was a very dedicated son and he loved his parents very much. That story is of an Indian mythology. Today we are going to study story of Taro. He was also a very dedicated son. Let's see the story. This is a story about a thoughtful and loving son. He works hard to fulfill his parents' wishes and gets some unexpected help. Now let's begin the story. Taro's Reward. A young woodcutter named Taro lived with his mother and father on a lonely hillside. All day long he chopped wood in the forest. Though he worked very hard, he earned very little money. So here we are going to read a story about Taro, who was a woodcutter, and he lived with his mother and father on a lonely hillside. There he used to, since he was a woodcutter, so obviously he chopped wood in the forest. He worked very hard, but then his earning was very nominal. Let's see what happens next. That because his earning was very less, that made him sad, for he was thoughtful son and wanted to give his old parents everything they needed. Since he was a very loving son, he wanted to give whatever things he could to his parents, but since his earning was very less, he was not able to fulfill this wish of his own, and that's why he was very like you can say he was very sad. One evening, when Taro and his parents were sitting in the corner of their hut, a strong wind began to blow. It whistled through the cracks of the hut, and everyone felt very cold. Suddenly, Taro's father said, "I wish I had a cup of sake. It would warm me and do my old heart good." So one evening what happened, that they were sitting and suddenly the wind started blowing. It was very cold, and the wind could pierce through the cracks of the hut. And suddenly Taro's father, he said that he wished to have a sake. Is a drink, although this word starts with S, but the pronunciation is with F. And since it's a Japanese story, this sake is a Japanese drink. It would warm, and he said that if he would have a cup of it, that would warm him, give him the warmth, and he will feel better. This made Taro sadder than ever, for the heartwarming drink called sake was very expensive. How do I earn more money? He asked himself. How do I get a little sake for my poor old father? He decided to work harder than before. So, since he heard his father's wish, he became all the more sad. Since he wanted to fulfill all their wishes, but then he knew that sake was very expensive, so he thought that there is only one way, that he should work harder than before to earn more money, and then only he will be able to fulfill his father's wish. Next morning, Taro jumped out of the bed earlier than usual and made his way to the forest. He chopped and cut as the sun climbed, and soon he was so warm that he had to take off his jacket. His mouth was dry and his face was wet with sweat. My poor old father, he thought, if only he was as warm as I. So next morning, when he got up earlier than usual time, he went to the forest to chop the wood. He chopped and chopped, and by that time he started feeling, because he was continuously working, so he started feeling warm, and then he felt so warm that he had to take off his jacket. He was feeling very thirsty, that's why his throat was dry and he was sweaty, and he felt that if only his father could also feel the warmth the way he is feeling. And with that, he began to chop even faster, thinking of the extra money he must earn to buy the sake to warm the old man's bone. And with that thought, he started working harder so that he could earn more money for his father. Then suddenly Taro stopped chopping. What was that sound he heard? Could it be possibly rushing water? Suddenly he stopped because he heard some water, some sound, and he imagined that is it water flowing there, rushing there nearby. So he could not remember ever seeing of or hearing a rushing stream in that part of the forest. He was thirsty. The axe dropped off his hands and he ran in the direction of the sound. So he was surprised, he was amazed because he has never heard of the water or stream flowing nearby. But then by that time he has worked so much that he felt thirsty and the axe dropped from his hand. He ran in the direction from where that sound was coming. Taro saw a beautiful little waterfall hidden behind a rock. Kneeling at the place where the water flowed quietly, he cupped a little in his hands and put it to his lips. Was it water or was it fake? He tested it again and again, and always it was the delicious fake instead of cold water. So he went straight away in that direction and he found that there was a little waterfall which was hidden behind the rock. He knelt down there and he tried to have some little bit of it in his hands. He had it. When he drank, he felt, is it water or is it fake? He was little surprised and he tasted it again and again to confirm. But then he found that it was delicious fake which was flowing. So Taro quickly filled the pitcher he had with him and hurried home. The old man was delighted with the fake. So he quickly had the pitcher which he quickly filled that fake in the pitcher which he had, and he quickly moved towards his house to give it to his father. And the old man, he was very excited, very happy that he was getting the fake after all. After only one swallow of the liquid, he stopped shivering and did a little dance in the middle of the floor. Just having a sip of it, that made him feel so warm, and he started a little bit of dance he did just to show his happiness in his room. That afternoon a neighbor stopped by for a visit. Taro's father politely offered her a cup of fake. The lady drank it greedily and thanked the old man. Then Taro told her the story of Magic Waterfall. Thanking them for the delicious drink, she left in a hurry. By nightfall, she had spread the story throughout the whole village. So that afternoon, one of the neighbors came to visit them, and Taro's father, he politely offered her the fake. She had it and it was very delicious. And while they were talking, Taro told her about the waterfall. By the evening, she had spread the word in the whole locality, and everybody in the village were aware of the waterfall. That evening, there was a long procession of visitors to the woodcutter's house. Each man heard the story of the waterfall and took a sip of the sake. In less than an hour, the pitcher was empty. So by that evening, when she has told, everybody came to visit them and had a sip of the fake, and in an hour, the pitcher which he has brought, which was filled with fake, it was empty. Next morning, Taro started for work even earlier than the morning before. He carried with him the larger pitcher he owned, for he intended first of all to go to the waterfall. When he reached it, he found to his great surprise all his neighbors there. They were carrying pitchers, jars, buckets, anything they could find to hold the magic fake. Then one villager knelt and held his mouth under the waterfall to drink. He drank again and then shouted angrily, "Water, nothing but water." Others also tried, but there was no fake, only cold water. So next morning, Taro got up little earlier because he thought of working harder than before, and he took with him a little larger pitcher which he had. And when he reached there, he was surprised to see that all his neighbors were there, and they had brought whatever utensils they had. Some had the jug, some had the buckets, pitchers, and everything with them to take that fake. And one of them thought of having that fake, and when he drank it, he again tried it, and he again tried it, and then he got very angry and he shouted that it's a water and nothing else, it's not fake at all. And then everybody else in the village tried it. "We have been tricked," shouted the villagers. "Where is Taro? Let us drown him in this waterfall." But Taro had been wise enough to slip behind a rock when he saw how things were going. He was nowhere to be found. So now they were angry and they thought that Taro has befooled them. So they said that now let's drown him in the waterfall. But then Taro was very intelligent, so he had realized that their neighbors what intentions they had. So he quickly hid behind the rock. Muttering their anger and disappointment, the villagers left the place one by one. Taro came out from his hiding place. Was it true? He wondered. Was the fake a dream? Once more he caught a little liquid in his hand and put it to his lips. It was the same fine fake. To the thoughtful son, the magic waterfall gave the delicious fake. To everyone else, it gave only cold water. So that is what happened. Like everybody, they were keep on they muttering is like speaking something or the other, and which was not very clear. So they said and they moved away. Gradually, everybody was gone. So Taro, first of all, he thought that was it a dream that he has dreamt the day before that he had fake. But then he again went near to the waterfall. He had it in his hands and drank it, and it was again same very nice fake. But then so he realized that for a thoughtful son it was fake, and for the neighbors who were greedy, for them it was the cold water. The story of Taro and his magic waterfall reached the Emperor of Japan. He sent for the young woodcutter and rewarded him with 20 pieces of gold for having been so good and kind. Then he named the most beautiful fountain in the city after Taro. This, said the emperor, was to encourage all children to honor and obey their parents. So gradually this story spread, and the emperor came to know about it, and he was very impressed. So he called the woodcutter, rewarded him with the 20 pieces of gold, and just because he was very good and kind towards his parents, and he named one of the fountain after him, and this was done for to motivate other children that they should also obey and honor their parents. So that is all for today, class. Please read the story, do the question answers, take care of yourselves, be safe at home. Thank you.